All right, good Wednesday evening. 5 News Chief Meteorologist Matt Sanders here. We are talking about storm chances overnight tonight. We apologize for some technical delays that we've had so far this evening, but we're watching scattered storms. We have a mix of hailstorms and windstorms right now in Kansas and Missouri. This yellow box shows you the severe thunderstorm watch that's in effect. It goes all the way up to the state line with Arkansas, and then also the state line from Kansas to Oklahoma. These storms continue to mainly move east, but eventually, as they put out so much rainfall, they're forced to turn south. We're going to talk about why that's happening. And as they're now starting to turn south, when could they arrive right here in Five Country, in northwest Arkansas, the River Valley, and eastern Oklahoma? We're getting the rest of our platforms ready. We had some technical difficulties just a little bit earlier, so we apologize for that. But we're going to get this up and running, so bear with me for a moment. It's been so warm and humid today. We have the fuel, but we have some atmospheric dynamics that may not allow the fuel to work. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment, too. This is going to be more of a weather discussion as we're just talking about what's going on in the atmosphere and what will probably happen overnight tonight and into early tomorrow morning. Whatever takes place, I check in with meteorologist Zach Scott as you're waking tomorrow morning. He'll show you where the scattered storms are, but let's show you what they're about to do over the next few hours at the very least. So getting these things ready. Let us know how warm you got today. Boy, it was warm. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about the setup. Lower pressure right now to the north, right along the stationary boundary, that's helping to fire up these storms. It's roughly where the jet stream is too. And you have the jet stream lined up with the boundary, you get some thunderstorms. We have some heat, so easy to produce those. But as this low pressure stays to the north, eventually, once these storms get away from it, they'll have to weaken, especially once they run into this guy. Storms don't like high pressure. And so over the course of the day, we've seen storms, at least some showers across Oklahoma move to the high pressure and they dissolved. Notice these storms. Look how they're almost even turning away because they don't want to go to the high pressure right now. But we're watching the complex to the north. Lots of lightning on these cells. You've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings stretching from, we had one earlier south and west of St. Louis, but we have some right now in western Missouri, eastern Kansas. We're really watching these ones to eventually impact Five Country. The storms off towards the north, they'll eventually head more to the Mississippi River. But it's these storms that we're watching. So let's take a closer look. They're starting to make a right-hand turn right now from the storm's perspective. So far, they've been moving pretty much directly east. I'm going to move this box here so we can see it just a little bit better. They're moving east, but eventually they become outflow dominant. What does that mean? It means they're getting so much rain in one spot that colder air from the rain is starting to push them south. You know, after a storm hits your house, the temperature immediately drops. Same story. But the cold air is kind of like a wedge. It's almost like a shovel. So if we get that rain, especially on the north and west side of these storms, that cooler air forces them to start going south because they've only wanted to go east so far. They want to be closer to the boundary to the north. They don't want to get to the high pressure, but that cold air is going to force them. And so because they're forced, they can still be pretty nasty as they're getting towards the state line, but eventually they will start to weaken. So the highest severe threat will continue to be off towards the north. That's why you see the severe thunderstorm watch being cut off with the state line with Arkansas. But these ones right now have some hail, they have some wind. They're pretty nasty. They're pretty good storms north of Independence, north of Coffeyville right now. But they are starting to move to the south. And they're also starting to produce a lot of rain in between the storms too. Once that takes place, that'll also produce more cold air to dive them farther towards the south. They're going to kind of hit I-49 and then start diving south. We also have a couple new cells trying to form just north of Miami. We're getting close to the state line. So east of Coffeyville, we're watching these storms right here. But the latest timing, as these storms press off towards the south, coming into maybe Bella Vista, so right there near the state line with Arkansas, around 2. So 2:30, maybe even as late as 3, depending on how long it takes them to complete the right-hand turn. So you got to think from the storm's perspective, they're going to start to turn right. So in the map, it looks like they're going to make that right-hand turn to go south, go down on the map. But Bella Vista, 2 to 3 o'clock. Fayetteville coming in between 3 to 4 o'clock. So that's a later timing. That's one thing that we've noticed. Everything's been delayed a little bit. We're pushing back the timing just a bit. In Fort Smith, closer to 5 or 6. And it may not even come into Clarksville till 6 o'clock itself. So getting closer to sunrise, we start to hit the rest of the River Valley. As these storms make it south, most likely they're going to start to fall apart. They'll become a little bit more fizzled. They'll become a little bit more scattered. So the question is, will everyone get the River Valley? Will get rain? Not sure, but there's a good chance a lot of parts of northwest Arkansas at least get some rain. So far, the past couple of days, most of the rain's been in eastern Oklahoma and then parts of the River Valley. Northwest Arkansas has pretty much been bone dry. So we're watching the storms, a lot of lightning on them. They continue to uptick in the lightning, so they're still strengthening right now. But eventually they'll be forced to start to turn south. It's closer to that high pressure. Right now we're mainly clear. It's been warm, it's been humid. But you can start to see some of that cooler air trying to make its way in from the north. It won't quite arrive here next couple of hours, though. We're in the 80s. Area-wide, it's 85 in Fort Smith. So you're thinking, Matt, we've got a lot of fuel to work with, right? We've got heat and humidity. We do. But we may actually have too much heat, not at the ground, but at upper levels of the atmosphere. It just got so warm today. High pressure does that. And so that's why the storms will start to weaken once they move south. You almost have, from a storm's perspective, too much of a good thing. So we're going to be watching too much of the heat, really, for that good thing. So we'll watch these storms move south. They become more scattered over time, but they could still have some wind. Wind is our primary threat. Some of them may still have some hail, but over time that hail threat goes down and become more wind dominant as they push south. So right now, nice south wind still out there trying to bring in more heat and humidity. But we're taking a look at some commuter simulations right now, and we'll probably get those storms coming in, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. I think this may be just a little bit delayed on some of the latest data coming in. Commuter simulations are very tough. Once you're only a couple hours out, you kind of have to throw them out, but I just want to give you a rough idea of what we're even expecting, so don't take this as gospel. But we'll be watching these scatter storms move them from the north. They'll likely be weaker because it's taken them longer to make that turn and come south. That's some good news. Also some good news, if we keep this delay up, it's going to keep some scattered clouds over us, maybe all the way up until 9, 10, 11, some folks even close to noon. That'll help temperatures in the long run. If you have more morning clouds, that'll help protect you as you go in the afternoon. It's still going to get very hot and humid tomorrow, but it may not get as hot as it was today, depending on how long the clouds last. And that's what we're going to be watching. And maybe the clouds last even longer the farther south you go, because that's where the storms are eventually headed. But scattered showers and storms expected mainly after 2. I'll show you the latest timing on a different map here in a moment. Level 2 severe threat for northwest Arkansas. You downgrade that as you get past Springdale, you cross over Sunset, you cross over 412, you hit the Arvest Ballpark, we're down to that level 1, and level 1 into the entire River Valley. Mainly gusty winds, but these storms will be falling apart. They'll be more scattered as they push off towards the south. All right, so latest timeline. We think that these times are not necessarily exactly when all the rain's going to be here. They're more of the prime window for the most activity. I think we're not going to get anything at least until 2 o'clock. But between 2 to 5, that's probably our main impact window for northwest Arkansas. There could still be some scattered showers after 5 o'clock, but that's the main impact time. In the River Valley, our main impact time will be from 5 o'clock. I think that's when that starts to arrive in the north and hit us in the River Valley. But we could still have some scattered showers and maybe rumble thunder, downpour too, by 8 o'clock. But I think especially on the first number, the start of the window, that's our highest threat for any kind of severe weather. So our best threat for severe weather would be from 2, maybe to 3 o'clock or so. In the River Valley, it'd be closer to 5, maybe 6 as they're starting to really dissolve and push off towards the south. After 8 o'clock, the most substantial stuff will already be really weak, but it'll be also towards our south, so that's some good news. So we'll start off tomorrow early morning with scattered storms. They're going to hit everyone differently. Let us know what you see. We'll watch those storms as they move in from the north. We'll have weather coverage all night tonight. We'll give you updates as needed, but we're staying up tonight, having a sleepover. We'll be tracking the storms all the way up until the mid-morning, and then I think we have some sun later in the afternoon that'll help warm us up to the mid-90s, mid and some upper 90s expected in the River Valley. But hopefully those clouds help kind of delay the start of the heat in that morning. Depending on how the rain hits us, if you don't get any rain, you may stay in the 80s tonight. It's going to be so warm, so sticky, and so humid waking up tomorrow morning. And then we'll head closer to the mid and upper 90s by the end of the day. If you want more rain chances, let's say you don't get rain out of the system, we have more ahead. There are kind of 2 prime windows to watch every single day in an atmosphere like this. You got to watch out for the afternoons because generally you can get storms to pop up, especially late afternoon hours. And then the next time window is overnight, but especially after midnight. That's when we start to get these complexes developing, especially just to our north, and then they move south, kind of like what we're watching right now. But this one's having a bit harder time because the storm track's still towards the north, the low pressure's still off towards the north. We have high pressure in our camp. So the question is, how much rain can push into that high pressure. And that's what we're kind of honestly trying to struggle with the forecast, and that's what we keep going over and over as a team as we watch these storms. But here's back to radar. We're going to wrap this up. Still severe thunderstorm warnings. It looks like the one in Kansas has already been deactivated. We'll see if more are activated over time. Right now, there's just a lot of rain and lightning in some of these, but the two right here have a little bit of hail and wind in them right now. I'll zoom in just a little bit closer. So we're just north of Independence, Coffeyville somewhere in there too, just to the south. But we're going to be watching these guys come in. So it looks like, I mean, that's a rural part of Kansas, but you can see Independence and Chautauqua. You cross over to Oklahoma, Miami would be next, and then you get in northwest Arkansas and eventually the River Valley. But heavy rain coming in. It'll become more scattered, so everyone's going to get something different. But I won't expect anything until at least 2 o'clock. We'll give you updates overnight as things change. We'll let you know what's going on. But for now, keep it here, keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.